Good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever it is you are in the world. My name is Marcel, and I greet you very much to our first instance of our operational efficiency with process automation with AI webinar today. Yeah, we are going to go through a lot of different topics and doing also a little bit more of a hands-on approach in the next couple of minutes. Short introduction of me. My name is Marcel Müller. I have hold a PhD in computer science in the field of business process management and some time ago in distributed ledger technologies. So that's why I have quite an extensive background in crypto. But I've been doing AI actually since 2014. Back then, AI was very much different than what we know what we have now. It was shortly before the deep learning craziness came, and I've been applying this knowledge of AI for over 10 years now in the industry, in the German big industry, but also in academia across the world. What I do in my day-to-day life, I actually work on real-life projects. So what you get from me here today are not only academic ideas, but more on the side of yeah, the actual application and what I learned with building a lot of projects with a lot of different customers. I am an expert and an advisor at the Center for Deep Tech Innovation that is thankfully organizing these type of events. And my main job is being the CEO of entAIngine, an enterprise-grade AI business process engine that you will also see today. And many of the things that you hear from me today are coming from my work that I did, yeah, especially in the past 2 years with generative AI, even though AI has been around for since I think 1953 was the first time that term came out. Of course, with all of the ChatGPT large language model craziness, we got to a whole different situation in the last couple of years. And this is mainly what I'm going to be focusing about, or focusing on today, large language models, but also other types of generative AI, image models, voice models, recognition models. So that is so far my very, very high level introduction of me. What we are going to do today is we are going to review a little bit I call it the ChatGPT moment that jump-started all of what I'm talking today about. And then at the second step, we are going to talk a little bit about processes and AI, because I think many of the people that come here have a direct connection from that type of generative AI to a chatbot. But there are so many more different types of use cases. And what they all do is they help something with a business process, make it faster, more efficient, better in whatever way. We will look into organizations, so into how we are rolling out projects and how we conduct these type of projects. We are looking into applications, and then I'm going to finish by talking a little bit about what else I'm doing in my day-to-day life from projects. And yeah, for everybody who joined, feel free to use the chat at any point in time to ask any questions. I'm trying to have my look on that here. And as a last reminder, this session is going to be recorded and uploaded. So if you have to leave for whatever reason, or you're short on time, or you want to forward this to colleagues, feel free to do so. Everybody is going to get an email with the slides and with the recording from today. And with that, I would like to dive right in or delve, how ChatGPT always says, and speak a little bit about how we got here. The moment where generative AI or transformer models made it to, I would say, the mass market, or the recognition of a broader range of users, was when OpenAI released its GPT 3.5 model and ChatGPT now late 2022, so 1.5 years ago. it is nothing else than a chat interface that is sitting on top of a large language model that helps people to interact and use this model. Why is this important? Because there were large language models before, but the chat interface was the thing that made it so accessible to a really large user base. Because literally anybody who has ever in their life used Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or wrote an SMS can use that interface. Never mind what you type in, you will always get something out. Not talking really about quality and if it helps you for your business, which we're going to focus later on today, but you will always get something out because this is just how how these models work. They are statistical models that do inference whenever you write something in and are doing a lot of mathematical calculations. Let's keep that simple and stochastics until you get an answer. I have an in-depth seminar that is several hours where I'm going to where I'm explaining the core foundations of large language models and how they are, how they help or how they work on a technical level. We have also recordings of that. If you would like to have that, please send us an email. And we will send you the recording. But today we are not going to dive too deep into the technicalities. We're a little bit more on the business and the business process and the impact level that we are talking about today. And this here was one of the first like big studies on the impact that this new type of generative AI can do in certain areas. Was not done by me, was done by Goldman Sachs. So if it's wrong, don't blame me, don't blame Goldman Sachs. But so far, what I've been seeing in the last 2 years, it goes, there is something to that. So how to read that graph? On the x-axis, you see different industries or different types of activities that you would see. And on the y-axis, you see what amount of the activities that usually happen in that industry or in that line of business can be automated from maximum to 10%, so almost no automation with AI. How much of these processes can see using AI as a complement to, for example, a human in existing workflows, and how and what percentage of the tasks in that very field can be likely even replaced completely with AI? That's the gray ones over here. And you see typical physical labor or physical labor intensive industries, building, construction, installation, maintenance, repair, production. All of these industries, of course, with it doesn't generative AI doesn't generate you a car that you can drive around, right? That's not how it works. But there are also in these industries kind of overhead management type of task that you can very well complement with an AI to make you more efficient. On the other side of the spectrum, we see industries where you can almost everything that you have make more efficient with AI. So computer science programming, but also business and financial operations, education, sales, of course. You can very much complement your existing tasks there with AI to gain an improvement. And the gray ones that you see here are the last, I would say, the last class of applications. That's where you can even a percentage of the activities in that field completely replaced with AI. And I would like to show here office and administration support and legal. I have right now a big legal AI project, and we have a big new platform for legal automation. So if any of you happens to have an overlap with legal contract creation, writing documents, feel free to send me an email. I can show you a little bit also what we are doing there. But this interface that I've shown you before, what it really enabled us, it enabled us to think about what we could do in our businesses. So I see ChatGPT mostly as a consumer interface for people that want to do one-time tasks more efficient. And secondly, as a prototyping interface to see what you can do. But it's not really an enterprise grade, or at least the chat interface is not really an enterprise grade process automation application. And it's not meant to that. It's meant to be a companion to a user sitting there and interacting with this model. And for many of the things that we do in our businesses, we have a different setup. And where we would and where we have processes that we use over and over again. So what do we really need to have an enterprise grade system that uses generative AI? Well, compliance and privacy, skilling and reproducibility, and data and systems integration. So if you are a free OpenAI user, all of your data that you are putting in OpenAI right now is being used to train the next version of that model. Um, when I saw that keynote where OpenAI was announcing that even their newest, latest GPT 4.0 model would be available for all users for free on this planet, there's that saying, if you're not paying for something, you're not the customer, but you're the product. And of course, you cannot just put your data in a free OpenAI subscription of your customers over there. Depending on which jurisdiction you're in this world, here in the EU, data privacy is kind of our fetish. So we have to look into that topic very specifically. Of course, if you have an enterprise to OpenAI, an enterprise subscription to the OpenAI API, then this is a different thing. But given that, there are also other models that you can completely run on premise, like Llama from Meta, for example, and dozens of other large language models that are open source and free to use, free for commercial use even, that you can just spin up and run in your own infrastructure. The second part is, even if we have a compliant LLM, and we have this, and our go-to interface is a chat interface, it's easy to get started. But if you're in a company where you want to do or gain efficiency at scale, this is quite challenging, because you need to train everybody how to write a good prompt. You need to train everybody to always use the same prompts, because otherwise you will have vastly different tones, styles, and output qualities of the things that you create. So I work with a company in Austria. They are an energy company, so they are making contracts with consumers to purchase energy. And what their challenge is, they have every month they have 10,000 invoices that they have to that they get from their suppliers, and also and invoices they generate themselves and they have to customers. And then they have customer complaints. They have customer service requests. They have different types that they need to analyze. So incoming invoices and outgoing invoices. And if each of these analysis and each of these interactions with a customer would have a different tone, style, or even content, that would be very, very bad for this business, because if you say yay to the one and you say nay to the other, that's not how a business is going to sustain itself. Talking about sustaining itself, the core feature and the core difference that on a value generation level, enterprise generative AI is versus something like a ChatGPT model, is that you build usually structures where you can access your own company knowledge in a workflow with a large language model. And that's done, for example, by retrieval augmented generation, or less so by fine-tuning, but fine-tuning is also in that same class of approaches. And you will also see later a little bit how we are doing that. So there is tons of examples that I can give you how you make your company knowledge available. And in a public pre-trained model like GPT-4, GPT-4o, or Llama, there is only information that was used to train this model is the knowledge of the Western world, the publicly available knowledge of the Western world. So everything that you can find in books, in Wikipedia articles, in forums, in blog articles, that's what was used to build these models. But of course, it's not your internal private knowledge, not your past projects that you had in your company, not the information about your products. I have a lot of engineering related tasks right now where we are making just technical documentation available in a better way than having a 500-page report that no one knows first where it's stored anymore and second where to find this information. So yeah. And when we talk about data integration, we also have to talk about systems integration, because when you are a bigger organization, when you are an enterprise, it's not going to be a standalone system that is just there. You have your other systems where all of your data is. You have authentication management. You have permissions, groups, access control that all need to integrate into these applications that you build with generative AI. And that's really the difference. I would like you to think about AI-enabled applications instead of chatbots. And then we actually cross the line from consumer grade to enterprise grade generative AI. And the core the core difference about that is, before you think about any type of tech, think about processes, because everything that we do in our business is a process. And if we want to make our business more efficient, save costs, save time, and use that to grow our business with the same amount of people, we need to think about making our processes better. And start with the process and then think about how you can, throw an AI on it. But this is the secondary, the second step. So don't do the second step before the first. I have here an example. That example is actually from a company that I also work with, and this is the CFO of that very company. Or this here is actually a fictive company, but I have the same use case actually in the real world. The CFO has at the end of the month to gather all of the invoices, and there are a couple hundred invoices in this company, and look over them and verify if they should pay them or not. So you get a lot of invoices, and you are only going to pay this invoice first if it's justified, if there's a project associated with that, and if there's a budget associated for that. And the process in that company looks a little bit as follows. The CFO receives one invoice. He receives actually a couple hundred invoices, but for each invoice, the process is the same. He has to map the invoice to a category and a department that is responsible for that invoice, and then write an email to the department head to ask for the justification of that invoice, or saying, this is nothing from us, this is not correct, it's not in line with budget, please reject it. That's something that he has to do for, in 500 or 1,000 different cases if they have 1,000 different invoices. The CFO, they send out an email, then the department head receives this email. They have to decide whether or not they want to pay this invoice and justify it, then write an answer email to the CFO, and then the CFO will check and then follow up with this process and decide pay or decline. My go-to approach that I always say, that I always tell people to use when they're thinking about efficiency improvements, do the following 4 steps. First, look into your business processes, describe the pain, and select those issues in your organization that are worth implementing something. If you have tasks that you only do once a year, take the ChatGPT interface, and when that time of the year comes, just try to do it with ChatGPT. Yeah, that's easy. Or an enterprise create ChatGPT, do it with a chat interface. That's what I wanted to say. But if you have processes that have a lot of impact because they have a lot of repetitions, and they take a lot of time, then these are usually your go-to. Select in the first step 1. Afterwards, we create a prototype, then we productize it before we launch an AI-enabled application in a bigger scale with a bigger enterprise. So in that process that I've shown you, the selection is a prioritization. And in the prioritization, I I say, look to qualify the pain that you have and quantify the pain. If you don't know how to quantify pain, take money. That always works. Or take hours, or take whatever you would like. But if you don't know what to take money. That is always good. So you remember the process that we had before. We have there an activity that is called map to category. So we are looking in this invoice, and then we are looking to trying to map it to a certain category, to a certain department head, so we know who to ask. And this has to be done for all of our 1,000 invoices, so all of our 1,000 cases that we have a month. That needs to be done in any case. It's not so, let's say it's not so time costly. It's 5 minutes per case. And if you have an internal cost of 50 euros an hour, then 1,000 cases a month, the pain point that you have there is 4,166 euros a month. Multiply that by 12 and then decide if that's worth for you, or if that's something that you would actually like to look into and make better. Then writing the email to the department heads, that is time consuming, but it only happens in 10% of the cases. Because something cannot be justified, or you don't have enough information at hand. So the impact of that is 15 minutes. It takes a little bit longer at 50 euros an hour. For 1,000 cases a month is about 1,200. And then writing an answer to the CFO, that takes actually a lot of time. So when a department head has to do that, we are having 30 minutes per case, because you need to gather all of the information, find it out, and then compile it. Of course, not only for new projects. That's the 10% of the new projects that we have per month. The others are all recurring, so then you can just copy and paste. And that has an impact of about 2,500 euros a month. Yeah. And you can do this approach with literally any type of process. Yeah. I have people where I am writing letters for insurances from lawyers. I have use cases where we are looking deeper into user emails and or customer support emails. So there's like everywhere where there's a process where you do something that somewhat involves text, you can go through this type of reasoning and figure it out. And once you selected an issue that you would like to focus on, you can model this process, translate it into a prompt, and build a very small POC in isolation, I would say. And the first interface that you can use for that is, of course, ChatGPT. But you need to be aware of the process that you're looking into. And we are right now looking into mapping the invoice to a category and department, and writing an email to the department head to ask for justification. That's and then receiving the answer email and responding to that. Yeah, use a certain model. You can use ChatGPT if that's all right with your compliance in the beginning. But keep in mind that later you have something that you need to also be able to roll out. And what I will show you in the tool that I will use at the moment is a tool where you can prototype and build the productive application at the same point in time. But I will get to that in a second. When we think about the case, a prototype, we have to think about what goes into that automation, that application that we're building. What's the input, what's the output, and what is the task that's happening in between. For input, we have to distinguish between case-specific input context and static, so case-independent context. So, example, if you have a customer service inquiry, you are a telco and you are selling routers, and a customer is asking you how to set up their router, this is one case. The question to what they actually need to achieve is case-specific context. And what you do in the background, you are looking into your knowledge base, for example, with retrieval augmented generation, and you're looking in the manual of that router to how to set up and troubleshoot it. That context, that manual of the router, is a case independent piece of context because it's in your knowledge base. And at the time when you have a case, you need to find the right context from your knowledge base so that you can feed it in, you can find the actual answer. For outputs, we have to think about the form and representation and what type of output we would like to have and what task we would like to have. And I would like to go with you and make a very short example about this use case that I had before with just looking into invoices for prototyping and for productizing in one thing. Because the tool that I'm going to show you, that's a tool that my company is building. It's called entAIngine, and with that we can build AI-enabled applications. So of course, there's also different other tools out there that help you do similar things, but I will use mine, of course, for that. So what we are going to do now is we are building an AI process application, and we call this process application invoice checker for CFO. We are going to associate that invoice to that application to an organization. That's in my case .dtc, so Deep Text Center, and I'm creating this application now. What this interface is showing you here, it's a no-code interface from which you can build processes very easily and test them out. And we made an application. So there's 4 different types of applications that we can build: AI process automations, chatbots, but that's only one type of application, company knowledge search, and the last type is editor applications, because I'm pretty sure many of you have use cases where, or have challenges where you usually sit in front of a Microsoft Word doc and you need to write something. Of course, there's the Microsoft Copilot, but Microsoft Copilot also requires a lot of manual prompting and so. And if you're always doing the same thing over and over, there's also something for that. I will show that, but I will show that to you later. What we are going to do now is I'm going to create a new process that is called invoice assessment, first steps. And what this process do, it takes an invoice and handles it. Yeah, whatever handle is supposed to mean. We have to define exactly that on this canvas. So maybe I make that really, really big. You see here now a blank canvas based on which we can build a process. And the process that I would like to build, I said it a minute ago, we have to first think about what we are feeding into this process in terms of case specific or case independent input. And one case specific input that I have is the invoice, of course, because in every case, the invoice will be different. I can make this an input variable, or how we call it, an input template, that I can later, when I'm going to reuse that for 1,000 times, always upload a different invoice. And this is going to be a file with the file ending PDF. I'm going to save that over here. Then the second thing that I would like to add is the knowledge base from who is in which department responsible for invoices. And I have a document for that that looks like this. It is a huge PDF where it says a mapping of the current projects in the department and the project leader. So the project leader is for us the ones that are responsible for justifying budget and for green lighting invoices in that case. So this is also a document. The question is now, is this document, is the static context or is it case specific context? It's not case specific, but it's also not completely static. So we could do either way because of course the projects change over time that we have. So what we are going to do is to create, in this case here, another input that says department mapping. And this is also going to be a file input tile of type PDF. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to build a process where I'm using this data that later will be fed in. And I'm going to use ChatGPT 4o as a model. And I can drag and drop here these elements to build my process down. And what I'm doing is the text completion model, a prompt, and the execution. So this little thing that we are building here that consists of these 3 components just says use GPT 4.0 on this very specific prompt that I have here. So, and I'm giving this prompt now some context and say, I am the CFO of a company in Germany, and I need to analyze some invoices for controlling purposes. So this is the general context to what our goal is that we have. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give let's say the generic instruction of what I want to do. And I say, I have the following invoice. So, and now I'm pasting in this variable called invoice that we defined, and that will in each of our cases be populated. Look at the items of this invoice and map it to one of the following departments and responsible persons. This is the list, and the list is the list of the department mapping. Give me the name and the email address together with a reason why you think this person would be responsible. So that's the prompt that I've written here now. What we can do, so we defined this process now, and what automatically happens on this platform is we make this a process template that I can use over and over again. And to do that, I go here on launch and I can use this template that we generated over here. And that's now the very important difference. Here, you don't have to prompt. You can build this application and then give it to your 10 finance operations people that help you do what you need to do. And therefore, I have this, what did I select here? I have the department mapping. Right? I want to upload the department mapping with the projects. So I'm going to take this and upload this PDF that I've just shown you here. Then I have my invoice, and I have here also a nice example invoice from AWS that goes to the Mobility Makers GmbH in Stuttgart. And it has a bunch of costs that are related to Amazon, to AWS. Yeah, something about 700 euros. So, and what I'm doing now is I'm also loading this invoice over here. And I call this is my first iteration of my test. When I press now generate, the process that you have seen, where we have that one step, where we take an input, we use GPT-4o with the prompt that we defined, is being executed and is being populated with that data that we just inserted. So, and it says the project mentioned in the invoice is called microserver, which falls under the IT security as per the list you provided. This is the responsible person. He's called Max Meyer, and this is his email. Reason, the project named microserver is recorded to understand the IT security department with Max Meyer listed as the leader. The invoice details several AWS services, which aligns with the responsibility typically tied to IT and IT security. So that type of reasoning kind of makes sense, I would say, at least for now. So this already helps us because if we validate that and we look for Max Meyer, microserver in the IT security department is under him. So that seems to be the correct one. But this is a very simple process. And when we think about the goal that we have in our process here, is of course also to write an email and ask him for a justification of that budget. So this is the next step that we are doing that is still part of this process. So we have here this process, the first step, we analyzed who's responsible. And what I'm doing now is I'm creating a second step in this line here. And the second step uses GPT-4o again in a text completion task, but the prompt that we have is a little bit different. The prompt that we have looks as follows. I am the CEO of a company in Germany. I need to analyze some invoices. I already have uploaded an invoice and created a mapping for I've already uploaded an invoice, then I paste that invoice again. And I created, and I identified who is responsible for this invoice. Now write a professional email asking the responsible person for justification and ask them whether or not to green light this invoice for payment. So this is the second step now, and we are using this, and we are making it into different parts. So the first part is, of course, I have identified who's responsible for this invoice. So we need to feed in and tell him, of course, who's responsible for that invoice, because that's the output of our first step. Then we need to create a second input over here that then says the second part of what we want to do, and that's now write a professional email asking for justification of what it is. So what I'm doing now is I'm saving it. We could go to that interface here again and try it out, but I would like to show you something a little bit different, because we can now debug this process and we can see what is happening in this process. So again, I am uploading here my data, because in this new case, we haven't uploaded any data yet, and I press generate. And you see now that these two steps are being executed. Step one is doing this mapping, where we say, okay, this is microserver. We've already seen that. And now we take this input and we put it into the second step. And then we get an email, DMX, I hope this email finds you well. I'm writing you for an invoice pertaining microserver, and this is going like here and there. So of course, we could add many more steps to this. For example, if you would like to look into your old project database, you can go and you can have that with retrieval augmented generation over here. Or we can do more things that are more into building. But the core thing that I would like to show you with what I'm doing here today is, it's not about just a chat. It's about the process that you are doing, thinking about the steps in the process, and thinking about what for each of these micro steps in a process you have to do what, and what email and what tool or AI tool can you use to do so. Because there's, of course, other models. We have OCR models, for example, here. There's audio transcription models, there's audio translation models, there's image generation models that you could all now add here. And for example, I don't want to have this as an email, but I would like to have this as a voice that I can send with a voice message or whatever you want. And that's really the creative part that goes much further behind how this event is called, much further beyond what it is to create a chat interface, but to build something. And when you are in this productization phase here, you have to think, of course, about the user interfaces and the data interfaces. We ingested now all of our data with an upload, but of course there might be different areas where you want to integrate your data via your database that you already have via an existing API call. And we have here in what we have learned so far is that here are 4 different types of applications that honestly are 90% of the use cases in enterprises right now. A process application, knowledge search applications, where we have something like a corporate search. We can also build that with the tool that I've just shown you. Chat agents, of course, and AI editors, where you a little bit like the Microsoft Copilot in Word, but with different AI snippets that you can use to make standardized approaches in there. And you can map, I would say, 90% of the enterprise use cases to one of these application archetypes, I would say. That's the prototype and productize part. And then when you have built an application like this, you would like to launch it and continuously improve it based on feedback from real users. Because there's only so much that you can do upfront where you have, example scenarios, example data, but in the end, you need to validate it with real users. And this is where this innovation becomes just product management in the end, because also this process automation or this editor application that you build, in the end, what they are doing is an improvement for your processes, but the whole orchestration, the whole building, the whole executing what you have is a product in itself that you need to manage and that you need to validate. And that's basically the core of how enterprises need to approach these things. A lot of them are going through it because they see now that Microsoft is shoving Microsoft Copilot down the throat of everybody. And then I have actually right now a lot of people that are very disappointed with Microsoft Copilot because they say it's not good enough. Actually, Microsoft Copilot is pretty good for what the goal is. And the goal is not for Microsoft Copilot to do process automation, but to be there a one-on, one-off companion to help people that are producing some sort of documents. So if you have the real blockbuster use cases where you have a lot of different cases, where you do always the same thing, and where you can use one of these models, like a large language model or an image model or a voice model, a video is also coming now, and you have really this process-related thinking, then you can gain a lot of value and you can save a lot of money if you would like to do that. And that is so far the little bit of the teaser of what I do with my company, with entAIngine. We help companies improve their efficiency with AI. Yeah, I train people, we upskill people, but we also do that either for you as consultants using the platform that I have just shown you, or together with you if you would like to have these types of knowledge in-house for you and use it yourself. Because I think this little process automation here, after a little bit of onboarding, I believe the majority of you could have done that by themselves, at least to the start. And yeah, we have on our platform that's enterprise grade. It's certified to according to a bunch of different standards. We have different models, proprietary or open source, for different text, for image, for voice generation. You can deploy each of them on premise, in the cloud, or use it as a SaaS. We have retrieval augmented generation. We have an app builder, and that feeds into your organizational management. And we have ways to build all of these 4 types of applications very easily. How we use that, how we do that usually with our customers is we have a dedicated team building for our customers and doing, what is needed on top, custom interfaces, custom integrations. So there's an API that you can put it anywhere, or we help you build. So taking you by the hand while you want to go the internal route and do that all by yourself. And that's really the end of my my short webinar today, and exactly as planned, 45 minutes, and now we have about 15 minutes for a bunch of questions. If you would like to write in the chat or unmute yourself, these are my contact details, and if you want to have a meeting directly, feel free to scan this QR code, then you will get directly to my Calendly link, and you will be able to book something directly with me. So far, any questions that are there? Randy, did what I've just said help you with your students? Did you have some new ideas on what you could do?
Dr. Meal, I got to tell you, I really appreciate the putting together a low-code app to basically take processes and string them together like you've shown us. I'm interested in having conversations with some of the students about that approach. I got to tell you, the idea of how I wire in different AIs based on use case, and do I use an external one like a ChatGPT or an internal one, and when can I make the switch between the two? It's all fascinating stuff. So I appreciate the depth of that you've gone into with this specific use case that you put together. Thank you. Very interesting.
You're welcome. There's many more use cases. I could do a whole day workshop showing you different things and different features, but I hope that sparked at least the beginning. Cool. I received another question. What knowledge prerequisites do we have to are required to build on the platform? I have no computer science or coding knowledge. Uh, Honestly, you don't need to have computer science or coding knowledge. A good start. I mean, this is a professional training approach. Yeah, you don't need to get a degree to do that. If you are interested and you would like to learn the basics of prompt engineering, we have a course for that, and we have a recording that I think we can send out to you. And if you have a use case, Mohammed, that you already have in mind and you would like to go that we are opening this platform now step by step for the public. So it's in advanced beta stage right now, but we are offering people to come in and yeah, be our first users. We have already like 25 different people that are already working on that or building applications right now. And I'm very happy if you have a certain use case that just take you by the hand and we're going through it and we're going to upskill you on the job if that's something that you would like to do.